Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have just adjourned from
Okay,
works
thanks.
executive session at 7:22, and we are going to move into work session at 7:22. And are there any agenda items that anybody would like to talk about? Hearing none. Uh-huh. Okay, thank you. Okay. Turn on your machine.
Machine.
So
I've got the machine
complaints.
on. Yes, the complaints about not replacing the lights, particularly on the thoroughfares like South Beltline, like Sandy Lake. We've gotten emails from citizens regarding the fact that they don't change them promptly. I'm curious as to whether or not in this discussion and improving this that we've talked to them about that, or that I know it doesn't go in the contract, but some sort of an assurance that they're going to be prompt in getting those lights replaced.
Okay. Is Vicky on the line?
Yes, I am.
Do you know the answer to that question?
Well, I do not know the specific answer to the question, but I will tell you that in working on the franchise ordinance with Encore, we did bring up the topic of that and some other things. And because it's not part of the ordinance, we decided that we would meet with them at another time to have further discussions about some of the things that we'd like to see Encore do in the city. That hasn't happened yet, but we do intend to have further conversations with them.
Okay. Mayor, yeah, Vicki, that's it's basically not that they don't do it; it's just the timeliness of them doing it. We go for long periods of time and have lights out up and down those thoroughfares, particularly on those old standards that the old light standards that I guess we'll replace it someday, at some point.
Mm-hmm. Kent might be able to answer some of those questions. I mean, we have lots of questions that we need to work out with them. And if I'm not mistaken, Kent, my understanding is that they tend to try to replace light bulbs, in groups in bigger groups than just individual light bulbs here and there. So
honestly, Keita might be able to answer that better. What we do is we report them to Encore because they maintain the lights. So that's our process, and then we'll just follow up to make sure that it's being done locally. But Ms. Hobbs may have a better answer on how they schedule that work.
Yes, Kent. What we can do also is we do have a scheduling on how we handle restoring those lights. But I will take up with Vicki. I'd rather us go ahead and sit down and really discuss in detail about the street lights and what's expected going forward. So I'd rather not step out until we're able to all come together and discuss what our plans are.
You're happy. Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Roden?
Yeah, I'd like to request in consent agenda items D and E that in the May meeting that we have just an explanation for the public of the change order for the design contract on Beltline and for the irrigation changes on MacArthur.
D and E?
D is in David and E is in Edward.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
On the item number I,
Okay.
the acceptance of resignation from Jason Crawford and Tushar, do we have any explanation or what's the reason behind their resignation?
sh-
I can take that.
Okay.
This is Jared. Good evening. They both have been working at a different pace, and so their work schedules have not allowed for them to participate. Jason had actually missed a couple meetings, and Tushar is just overwhelmed at the moment, so they both requested to drop off.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Jared. Okay, so presentation regarding implementation of emergency trail marker system. Mr. Elias, or is it Mr. McLean? Mr. Elias, there you are.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is John Elias. I'm the project manager with the City of Coppell, and I'm here tonight to give Council an update on a City Council goal for 2020, which was the implementation of the emergency trail marker system, which was completed in June of this year. I would like to start out by giving credit where credit is due on this project. The actual installation of the markers was the easy part of the project. The bigger challenge on the project was to be able to assign addresses to the markers, similar in function to an address point in GIS, allowing NTECC, which is the North Texas Emergency Communications Center, to dispatch to the markers. And they would appear appropriately in the fire department's MDT and on their apps. It does us no good if the information on the markers cannot be used by dispatch to direct police and fire to the locations. This was accomplished through the efforts of Leah Boyer and Kevin Rubalcaba, GIS analysts with our Public Works Department, as well as working with Captain Chris Price and Deputy Chief Tim Oates in our fire department. All four of these individuals worked directly with NTEC as they were updating their CAD systems and allowing this technology to happen. Next slide, please, Julian. To develop the emergency trail marker system, we assigned trail sections throughout the trail system a name, a color, and a numbering range. Each trail marker has a specific number code. We only focused on the trail sections that did not run parallel to a street. Emergency responders don't have the same challenges on side paths. They're able to find patrons that are down on these trails just by simply driving up the street. We installed a total of 36 new trail markers, and last fall we had installed 10 trail markers at the Coppell Nature Park along the nature trails. These are some of the trail sections that we broke it down into. We have a total of 11 sections that are in this new system. We assigned a name to them and a color. Next slide, please, Julie. This is a map that shows the different trail sections and the colors of each section. We also have sections in the southern and western parts of the city's trail system. We've got the markers on the Cambion Trail, the Creekview Trail, as well as in Hunterwood Park. Each trail section has a numbering range starting with the Natchez Trail Trace, which is in the upper right-hand corner of this map. It's the green section. All the markers in this section are going to be in the 100s. The next section is the Moore Road Park section, which is directly below it. It's the yellow section. All the numbers are in the 200s in this section. As we move from east to west across the parks, that's kind of how we sequenced it. 100s, 200s, 300s, and so forth. Next slide, please, Julian. These are photos of one of the trail markers in the Moore Road Park trail section. As they're approaching the marker, the first thing trail users should notice is the color band, telling that you are now in the yellow trail section. As the trail user passes the marker, they will see the 911 location and the marker number. The marker number plaque is on the front and on both sides of the markers. All the markers in this section have a yellow color band, an abbreviation of the trail section name, in this case, MRP 215, which stands for Moore Road Park, marker number 215. All the markers in this section are in the 200s. Each marker increases by increments of 5. So the next marker would be, in this case, it would be 220. I think this is the last one. So they start out at 200, 205, 210, and so on. We tried to use an easy number system for people to use. That's why it rises in increments of 5. The markers are spaced approximately a quarter mile along the trail sections, but these markers are not intended to be mile markers. They are simply emergency trail markers only, although they could be used for mile markers, but they're not all on a quarter mile. There was a couple of sections where we had to add some, even though it wasn't quite a quarter mile, just because we were going either into a new park or into a new trail section. If the trail user has an emergency along the trail, obviously if they can give the last marker number they passed, that will help dispatch directly to their location. If they don't remember the last marker, there are some things that dispatch can pick up if they can even remember parts of it. Obviously, if they can remember the color, that will get emergency responders at least to the trail section. If they can remember any of the number, whether it's 200 or 300, again, it's per section. So if they can come up with, I think it was 200 and something or 300 and something, that will help dispatch get them located. Also, the abbreviation of the parks, the MRP, if they can come up with bits and pieces of that. So there's kind of some hidden clues in here that will help dispatch help find these locations if they don't know the exact marker location that they were on. And I will close this presentation by updating council and the community on the education and the marketing of the emergency trail marker system. On July 15th, Hannah Cook, our chief communications strategist with the city, put out a media and news release. The story has been shared in our Coppell e-news. It was picked up by the Rambler and run in the paper. It has also been sent out through all of our social media outlets. That was all done by Hannah. Tiffany Anderson, who is the community engagement manager in the Parks and Rec department, she has updated the Parks and Rec webpage. And in fact, the map that I showed on slide 3 is directly from the webpage explaining the program. She has as well put it out to all the social media outlets that the Parks Department has as well. There's one last step to complete this project, and that will be the installation of these maps out in the trail system. We currently have 5 monument bases or marker bases in the parks that had maps on them previously. Those maps have all been pulled. Tiffany and I are finalizing that map. We'll get that printed up, and that will be installed by staff sometime early this fall. And with that, I will close the presentation and open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I know we've heard about this coming. It's kind of fun to see it's actually all happening. Any questions? Comments? Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And thank you for bringing us this update.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
All right.
Okay, that is the end of our work session. If it is okay with everyone, the time is 7:38. Can we take a 7-minute break and start again at 7:45?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm late. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The time is 7:47. And I welcome everyone to the regular session of the City Council. Tonight we have an invocation by Councilmember Bijou Matthew, and then please, it's kind of weird to say this, but we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, as we gather together, we praise you for this day and your purpose for it. O God, bless our agenda to be fruitful and for the common good. Grant that our mayor, council members, and staff have ears to listen to the people we serve and wisdom to act for justice. We pray for our citizens who are affected by COVID-19, who lost their jobs, hours cut, lost health insurance during this pandemic. We pray for our doctors, nurses, mid-level providers, technicians, firefighters, police, and first responders. Give them the strength to execute their craft with excellence. O God, guide us with your wisdom and knowledge during our discussion and debate, and help us to formulate the right policy for all our residents and business, fair and equitable to all parties. We ask your blessings on our city of Coppell. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
God,
nation,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Citizens appearance. Do we have anyone who has contacted us for citizens appearance? Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. There are items A through K. These items are generally enacted in one motion. They are items that have either been previously approved or have been approved through budget. We have two items, items D and item E, that we have been requested that we give an explanation of D and E. So, Mr. Collins, are you here to help us?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll go through item D. You will recall during the last council meeting, we gave an update on the status of the Beltline Road. And at that meeting, staff presented a couple of design changes or changes to the project that we got direction to proceed with. One of those was to change how we would actually conduct the project from a traffic control standpoint. Previously, we planned to remove the center median, install temporary paving, and maintain 5 lanes of traffic throughout construction. The change is we will basically put traffic on one half of the existing pavement, so we would have 3 lanes of traffic instead of 5, reconstruct the other half, flip the traffic to the new pavement, and then construct the other half. So basically we go from 6 segments of construction down to 2 or 3. That combined with a change in the paving section that we presented, total those we estimate with our consultant to save in the neighborhood of $5.5 to $6 million on the project, as well as save 4 to 6 months worth of construction time. So we're proceeding with that. The change before you tonight is actually a change in the design contract with Half Associates. It's a $95,000 increase. The items that this will cover, and just to restate, the current design completion is at 70%. So we have 70% plans in our possession. But what they will have to do, they're going to have to update some of the survey work that they've already done. They're going to have to redo all the traffic control plans, update the typical sections, paving details, and cross sections throughout the plans. We initially estimated that we would need 10 easements or right-of-way parcels for the project. As they got into design, we've identified 9 additional easements. That's mainly for sidewalks. So at the intersections where we're adding auxiliary lanes, and we're having to bump out the right-of-way a little bit, instead of getting right-of-way, we'll be getting easements for those sidewalks. There's some traffic engineering work in there. And then we'll basically are going to have to redesign our landscaping plan for the center median, because essentially we were beginning with a blank slate. Now we'll be designing around a lot of the existing trees, redesigning the irrigation. And our plan is, as we discussed, the plan is to complete design this coming spring, so spring of 2021, so that we can bid it out and award construction in the May-June timeframe. So the idea would be to start as early as possible next summer or the end of spring. Again, it's a $95,000 amendment to their design contract. It brings the total for their design contract to $1,321,000, and be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. Kent, like we stated in a couple of weeks ago when you presented this is the cost savings are phenomenal, and keeping the median is great. I am a little bit concerned that due to the implementation time that we may see increased traffic, not to the previous COVID-19 levels, but certainly above where we are today. Is there anything in the world that we can do to speed up the design process to actually award contract earlier?
We have looked at options to do that. One of the big challenges initially when we were presenting this was we were already kind of pretty far down the road on the bond sale, way down the road, basically at the end of the road on that bond sale. So what we did, we talked about, could we have another interim, basically, bond sale just for Beltline? So the short answer to your question is, it is possible. I've talked to finance, to Jennifer and Kim. We sat down and talked. I've talked to our consultant about, options. And so the answer is, it is possible. And what that would look like is in January, that would be our target date for award for a notice to sell bonds, as well as a reimbursement resolution. Kind of basically on the same night, you would do all three. So that's how you would get it done if you wanted to accelerate. So there's some windows in there that we want to avoid from a bidding standpoint. We don't want projects on the street during the holidays. Just historically, it's a bad time to be bidding public projects. So the schedule, if we went down that road, the schedule would be we would have the design finished, or need to have it finished in October, or late October, early November, so that we can bid it and have it ready to open bids before Thanksgiving. And then we can do all the paperwork and score the bids and everything, and then have it in January. Now, we do have a number of concerns with doing that. That is an extremely fast schedule to go from 70% plans to 100% plans. I think even if we weren't making the changes we're making, that would be a quick schedule. When you think about, that's basically, about 8 weeks worth of design time. And we will have, staff will have 2 rounds of plan review within that time frame. And we normally take about 2 weeks to review plans, so we give everybody a chance to look at them. And if we went down that path, we would have to accelerate that, which we can do. What half would do, they would basically break the project into pieces and farm out segments of the design to other offices within their firm. All of the things we would have to do to make that schedule introduce risk of errors, risks of missed items. So we can do it. We just have to accept and expect that as we get into construction, we would have change orders where we might not have them if we followed a normal schedule. The other big concern is that finance is in audit season. They're also in the middle of implementing Munis. There is a lot of work, lead-in work that goes into preparing for a bond sale. So there's concern there, again, that something could be missed simply because of the volume of things that they're handling that require a lot of attention and a lot of process. They have discussed the idea with our financial advisor, because our concern was when we met with the rating agencies, we told them we would have one more bond sale and it would be next summer. So this would be a deviation from that plan. Now, our financial advisor has said there's adequate justification for why we would do that. So they think it's justifiable. It's really, there would be, I don't want to miss this, there would be a little bit of additional design effort, obviously, just from the coordination standpoint. It's not a huge number. I think it's $10,000 to $15,000 more to get that. We don't know what the traffic volumes are going to do. If we're at these same levels in 6 months, we've, maybe gone through that effort and risk for not a lot of reward. One thing we do think will happen, using the volumes that we have now that we've collected recently and looking at the traffic, the traffic operations, I told you we would be at that level of service D or E range. That accounted for no diversion of traffic. So by the time we get to construction, Freeport will be open to traffic. We'll be putting out message boards, driving people away. I think I described, we have ways that we can, Waze traffic system, we can put our closures in to try to help people pick alternate routes to Beltline. So I think even if general traffic picks up, we have ways that we can help kind of drive it away from Beltline. So I just wanted to provide the response. It is possible. There are risks involved. There's some cost involved. The one thing I didn't mention, I need to, we were counting on when we looked at the numbers and being able to basically buy down the bond sale for Beltline if we sold it and went forward next year. So start construction in May. We had that, I think it was 1.3 million in the general fund set aside for Beltline. That would not be available if we accelerated, and we would need to use that set aside for debt payment instead. So we would have to sell more and then use that as a debt payment, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, Jennifer will have to explain it, because that's really, that may be a more detailed answer than you were looking for, but that's kind of all the moving parts, all the risks, all the rewards, maybe if we were to accelerate it further.
So what you're going to stay with your original schedule as your inclination then?
That is our recommendation. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Do you want to, who's going to look at, or who's going to discuss item E? Oh, there's Mr. John again.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm back again. So I'd like to give a little history on the project that has the change order. It's the MacArthur Boulevard Trail project. We awarded this project March 24th of this year. When we awarded the project, we spoke with council about approaching it in a, I don't want to say a unique way, but a different way. We awarded the actual concrete and installation of the trail to Ed Bell Construction. We knew with this project, we were going through almost 2.5 miles of basically working in the utility easement and the right of way, all the way along MacArthur Boulevard. We knew we were going to get into irrigation systems. We knew we were going to have to take out trees and they would need to be replaced. We worked very closely with the Lakes of Coppell HOA. A good part of this, almost half of this project falls within their common areas. And so we wanted to make sure and take care of them. They've got a pretty good size investment in their landscaping and in their trees along the right of way. So when we awarded it, we spoke to council about awarding separately. We wanted to use interlocal agreements with an irrigation contractor that the city uses regularly, as well as a tree contractor. What we're trying to do is particularly with the irrigation, is avoid change order pricing from the concrete contractor. We really didn't have a way of knowing how much irrigation we were going to get into on this project. We knew we were going to. These irrigation systems are old. There's no existing plan that we could overlay on ours and know what all we were going to get into. So there again, that's why we wanted to award it separately. On the night of the 24th, when we were awarding the contract, I gave council a project budget of $40,000 for irrigation and $25,000 for trees. And that was, I don't want to just say a guesstimate, but we really didn't know. We knew we were going to get into it, but we really didn't know how much. So we awarded that. We awarded Ed Bell Construction, and then we set up an interlocal agreement with the irrigation contractor. We set up a PO with them for $25,400 just to get them started. I did not want to just give them a blank PO for $40,000 and say, just go. So we asked them to give us their best guess on what they saw, what was obvious that they would get into. We set up the PO for that, knowing full well that we would probably have to come back and adjust that PO. I did not anticipate it going over $50,000, and so I was not as concerned about setting up a PO and knowing that I was going to come back and have to amend it. The reason that the change order for this is so high, we were going pretty good. Actually, it was falling in line with that $40,000 budget. There are two intersections in the Lakes of Coppell area where basically we ended up taking out the majority of the irrigation system. It's on both sides of Waterside and Laguna. When we started demoing out the concrete and seeing what we had, the main line was very, very shallow. It was only 6 or 8 inches deep, and we ended up getting into 13 valves. And so we basically we have to go back and pretty much put in the 13 new zones in those two areas. That area alone is $24,000 of this $40,000 change order. So that's the reason for the change. We knew we were going to get into it. We didn't realize we would get into it this bad. The good side of this is that by using the interlocal agreement with the irrigation contractor we have, we are on set pricing. There's no change order pricing at all. It's the same pricing that we were using the entire time. And so that's why I'm here tonight to get this change order. Again, most of it is in those two areas. We think $15,000 will cover the rest of it. As we get south of Sandy Lake Road, the irrigation system, there's some there, obviously, but they're not as bad, or there's not as many of zones and that nature as what we dealt with in Lakes of Coppell. So we do think this will be enough to change it all. We originally told you $40,000 on the budget, and now it's going to be $65,000. And so even the wording of that change order, it's a $40,000 change order. We knew we were going to have to change it. Ultimately, we're about 25 over the number that we told you. So that's what we're asking for, is another 25,000 on top of the 40 we already had. And the last thing that I would say on this project, we had a $2.1 million budget estimate for this project. We awarded 1.2 to the contractor, and we're still well under that budget. I realize it's a change order, but we're still going to come out ahead of the game as far as the budget is concerned, and I think ahead of the game as well as far as preventing change order pricing and being able to control it best we could, especially with the fact that we didn't know what all we would get into. And with that, I'll open back up the questions, or if there's anything else I can answer.
Thank you, John. Any questions? I just want to let you know that I've already seen people use that, families on their bikes using that trail. I think they went around this is closed signs, but they are on the trail. Okay. Any other items that anybody would like to discuss on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda items A through K.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Long. Yeah. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa Smith, Mays, Roden.
In favor, Yingling.
Thank you. Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. Motion carries.
You need to change your picture to your hand up.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
That would be interesting. Okay, so that's the end of the consent agenda item. Item number 8, we'll have Ms. Miller here, Director of Finance, to help us. Consider approval of a resolution amending resolution number 010996.3 as amending the master fee schedule for restoration of service fees, animal service fees, drainage fees, subdivision regulation fees, building fees, general fees, public information fees, police fees, building fees, and authorizing the mayor to sign. Ms. Miller, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm bringing this agenda item forward so that we can amend the master fee schedule. As part of our annual budget process, the fees charged by the city are reviewed. During this review, surveys were sent out to surrounding cities to obtain some benchmark information. And when I tell you which fees are being amended based upon benchmark, that also means that we're being in the median of the market for that type of fee. We're not on the low end, we're not on the high end, we wanted to be right in the middle. And then over the past few months, we've reviewed some of these fees in various work sessions, and the proposed changes are being brought forward for council's approval. The restoration of water service fee, we are adding the after-hours restoration of service. Animal services fees, those are being adjusted based upon the benchmark information. Drainage fees, The public hearing on these fees was held on March 24th, 2020. Subdivision regulations, those are being adjusted based upon benchmark information. Building fees, those are being adjusted based upon cost recovery and benchmark information. General fees, we're adding the motor vehicle mitigation fee for incident response by the fire department. Public information fees, we are taking out all of the fees that are referenced in the resolution, and we are referring to the Office of the Attorney General. So that way, when they amend a fee, we are not having to come back and amend our fee resolution. We're just referring to what they are charging. Police fees are being adjusted based on information. Other fees, that is where we are adding the credit card transaction fee. Your water, wastewater, and roadway impact fees. The public hearing for that fee was held on April 14th of 2020. These are the proposed changes to the master fee schedule, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Long.
Ms. Miller, I'm sure that you've told me, but I would like an explanation of the motor vehicle mitigation fees, what those are.
Okay, I'm going to let Chief Richardson explain that fee.
Sure. So, good evening. Several council meetings ago, we had a work session, and this would be to bill for our motor vehicle accidents, which we do not do now. That it would be billing through the insurance companies. There's certain fees that would go with extrication, fuel spills, fires involved with motor vehicle collisions. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you may have on that.
Thank you, Chief. You've told me that more than once.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item number 8.
Second by Councilmember Hinojosa Smith. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa Smith, Mays, Roden.
Yingling in favor.
Thank you. Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you. And Ms. Miller will also help us with item 9, which is consider approval of a proposed tax rate of I guess it's 58 cents even for 2020 tax year, and to set the public hearing on the budget and the proposed tax rate for the next regularly scheduled City Council meeting on September 8th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you. This agenda item is a record vote on the proposed tax rate, and it announces the date, time, and place of the public hearing to be held on the proposed tax rate. Prior to Senate Bill 2, when a tax rate exceeded the notice and hearing limit, which then was the effective rate and is now the no new revenue rate, the governing body must take a record vote on the desired rate. But once the publications came out under Senate Bill 2, it requires a record vote to be included on our notice of the meeting to vote on the tax rate, regardless of what that tax rate is proposed. But our no new revenue rate is 0.638729, and the voter approval tax rate is 0.654106, and we're proposing a tax rate of 0.58. And this is below the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate. The notice of meeting to vote on the tax rate and the notice of the public hearings on the budget and the tax rate will be published in the paper on August 29th of 2020. The public hearings will be at the regular council meeting on September 8th of 2020, and the meeting to vote on the proposed tax rate and the budget will be at a special called council meeting on September 15th of 2020 at 6 p.m. This agenda item is not a vote to approve the tax rate. Approval of this agenda item authorizes staff to publish the notices in the paper and on the city's website. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer, in addition to being well below the no new tax rate and the voter approval rate, it is also a reduction in the tax rate from which we had last year. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Did you calculate the percentage reduction that this is?
No, I did not.
That's okay. I won't try to use my Aggie math on that, but thank you very much.
All right.
Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer, I have a question. Once we advertise the tax rate 0.58, can you go up or can you go down when we are making actual decision?
You cannot go up, but you can go down.
Thank you.
This is saying that this will be the maximum rate that you will assess unless we start the entire process over. But if you, at the public hearings, if it comes up and you want to lower the tax rate, you may lower the tax rate.
Thank you.
Any Councilmember Mays?
I was going to ask if you were ready for a motion.
I believe I am ready for a motion. Councilmember
right,
Mays.
Based on feedback from the citizens, it's been very clear that we've been living in a very special place. This council does not make decisions for the short term. We make long-term decisions for the benefit of our citizens and for the city of Coppell. When you take a look at the impact of the declining sales tax revenue based on SB 3.334 and to no small extent COVID-19, it's unbelievable that we're able to present a budget to the city of Coppell that's actually including a tax rate decrease. So with a great amount of satisfaction, and I hope everyone is very pleased with this, as well as the astounding work that the city staff has done to create this type of budget for our citizens. I move to approve item number 9.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem Hill? All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa Smith, Mays, Roden,
Yingling, in favor.
Matthew, Hill. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller, for helping us with that.
Thank you.
Item 10 is consider approval of the first amended restated interlocal cooperation agreement by and between the City of Coppell and Denton County Transportation Authority to provide transportation services for Coppell businesses and authorizing the mayor to sign. And we have Ms. Hurley here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Welcome.
Thank you. Is my PowerPoint? I just wanted to see if okay, thank you. Okay, next slide. So tonight we are here to consider approval of the first amended and restated ILA with the Denton County Transportation Authority. Next slide. For a little background, on August 27th of 2019, City Council approved an interlocal agreement with Denton County Transit Authority to administer a mobility contract on behalf of the City of Coppell with Lyft. Lyft provides first mile, last mile connectivity for employees between area transit stops and Coppell businesses, and the fare is subsidized by the City of Coppell. The contract, when we signed the original ILA, was a 12-month contract that would run from October 1st of 2019 through September 30th of 2020. And again, the idea behind the test program was to provide the city with 12 months of ridership data to help us determine if and what the long-term need for workforce transit in Coppell is. So staff went out and marketed the program to the area businesses. And as we expected, ridership was slow in the beginning, but there was an increase in ridership around December. Next slide, please. There have been a total of 1,392 rides from October 1st through the end of July. And the city has spent approximately $11,122 on the program over those same 10 months. Approximately $8,898 of that was spent on rides, and then the remaining $2,224 was spent on administrative fees to DCTA. And due to the fact that the test program was interrupted by COVID-19, staff is in front of you tonight requesting that we extend the program to run through September 30th of 2021. So that would just be a 12-month extension of the current program. Next slide, please. So the first amended and restated ILA before you tonight will extend the contract, the current contract by 1 year. All of the transit stops will remain the same. The ridership cost will remain the same. So there's nothing changing. It's basically extending it just another 12 months. And then the DCTA board will be reviewing this ILA at their board meeting on August 27th. So if both parties approve the ILA, there will not be any discontinuation of service, and staff will get out and continue marketing the program to encourage ridership this next fiscal year so that the data analysis can continue. Next slide. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Council, are there any questions? It looks like you did a fabulous job. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 10.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Long. All in favor?
Long, Hinosa Smith, Mays, Roden.
Yingling in favor.
Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the City Manager Report, project updates, and future agendas.
Mayor, Mayor and Council have two things to report this evening. The Bethel water line is complete, and the neighborhood has signed off on the improvements, so we have that project behind us now. And the Old Town wayfinding signs have been installed, and Kent has reached out to the one person who's given us an email, but other than that, Mayor, don't have anything else to report this evening.
Are you saying that nothing's happening?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that nothing else to report this evening.
Okay, just checking. Item 12 is Mayor and Council reports. Item A is please participate in local government and give back to the community by serving on one of the city's boards and commissions. The city is currently seeking passionate individuals to be a part of 8 boards and commissions that will guide the development and future needs, regulations, and much, much more for Coppell. Applications are being accepted online at coppelltx.gov/boards now through September 25th. Please, if you have any interest, help the council by joining one of these boards and commissions. And then there is a community meeting, and you are invited Thursday, August 27th at 6:30 p.m. to review the progress of the Dart Silver Line Regional Rail Project. Due to the pandemic, all public meetings will be taken place via video, Microsoft Teams. DART and the design build contractor will be on hand to outline the latest developments and answer any questions. The project will provide regional rail service along a 26-mile-long Silver Line corridor from DFW Airport to Plano. And for more information, you can check the city's calendar of events. And then I'd like to remind you again to put on your calendar the budget hearing on September 8th at our regularly scheduled meeting. If you have any questions or concerns about the budget, we invite all to that hearing. Council members, are there any other upcoming events? Hearing none. We have council reports. Item 13, Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition, Councilmember Roden.
Thank you. At our most recent DRMC meeting on August the 7th, we were joined virtually by Comptroller Glenn Hager, who talked through budget challenges for the state as a result of COVID issues, but in particular how those budget issues would impact monies being available in the state budget for transportation. Not only are there issues just in general with the budget, but particularly because so much of the transportation funding comes from the gas tax, and because mileage is down so much, there's going to be a lot of discussion in the legislature and on regional mobility coalitions and at TxDOT over what priorities are in this next year. The one interesting thing that was presented, I thought, was the fact that they showed some charts that indicated that traffic was down as much as 30 or 40% as we went through the May-June timeframe. And as you would expect, accidents were also down a proportionate amount. What was interesting is that traffic deaths were actually up in the state by about 25%. And the only explanation that could be offered was the fact that with traffic reduced, speeds and potentially even alcohol incidents were increased. And as a result, the death rate was up, which I thought was a challenging statistic, but interesting as well. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. Item B, Woven Health Clinic, Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. Woven Health Clinic implemented 100% telemedicine visits at the end of March and ran until mid-June. Since then, they've conducted 50% in-person visits and then 50% telemed visits. Last month, Woven was excited to start a neurology and a dermatology clinic. Patients are really being hit hard by COVID-19, both physically and economically. Woven is leveraging all of their nonprofit partners to help them make it through this difficult time. As you can imagine, the clinic is seeing a higher number of depression and anxiety cases. The clinic is still waiving its copay for patients that are unemployed, which is a huge help. Then the clinic is also still conducting free COVID-19 tests for their existing patients and for first responders and essential workers. The clinic now gets COVID-19 results usually within 48 hours, but beginning in late September, the clinic will have a machine on site that will give results within 45 minutes. And that's all I have for Woven. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Report on MetroCrest Services, Councilmember Bijou Matthew and Councilmember Mays.
Bijou, did you have anything?
Go ahead, Wes.
All right. So MetroCrest has been extremely busy over the last quarter, as you may imagine. Their requests for services has gone up substantially. For example, over the last quarter, 702 families have received rent assistance, and that is a 200% increase over the same period last year. In addition, close to 5,000 families have received meals over this quarter, and that accounted for 732,000 separate meals. That was a 316% increase over the last year. In addition, MetroCrest has delivered over 1,600 home-delivered meals and have provided 465 rides to seniors for critical doctor's appointments or other necessary trips. Perhaps their biggest impact has been in the food pantry, and as we've been reporting over the last few months, the usage of the food pantry has continued to increase, and this past week they were up 281% over the same time last year. That was a total of 758 visits compared to 200 last year. They're still in desperate need of volunteers at the food pantry, and anyone that is willing to spend a couple of hours or more is encouraged to contact MetroCrest at metrocrestservices.org. Many other things going on with MetroCrest, but we'll keep it short and leave it at that for the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There is one other item that I neglected to mention. The CARES Act Phase 2 applications remain open through tomorrow, Wednesday, the 26th, at midnight. So please go to coppelltx.gov for more information on that. Are there any other public service announcements? Hearing none. We have a necessary action from Executive Committee, and we have Mr. Hager here.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as a result of your executive session held earlier this evening, I would ask the Council to consider the following motion. A motion to authorize Thompson Knight as Special Legal Counsel on behalf of the City of Coppell to file the appropriate administrative and legal court proceedings to contest the validity and interpretation of TAC Rule 3.334, both on substantive and procedural grounds concerning local sales and use tax under the Texas Tax Code.
Thank you. Do we have someone to make that motion? Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the preceding motion read into the record by City Attorney Bob Hager and make so motion.
Thank you. Second by Councilmember Roden. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa Smith, Mays, Roden.
Yingling in favor.
Matthew Hill in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. There is no other work or agenda items before us, so we are adjourned at 8:36. Thank you.